Actually, maybe I'll show you guys where I am right now. This is the end of this road. There's no clear cut. There's a big river flowing on the other side of those trees right there, flowing from my left to right, somewhere back there. There's some deer prints in there, and no other prints. That's where I came from, and that is me. And here's where I am right now. So, this will be my first video I've made since YouTube decided to prevent me from sharing with you guys. Kind of odd, isn't it? Kind of creepy, right? It's funny, as soon as they do something like that, it just makes you think of back. You can find them. You can find those old movie reels of when the Nazis burnt the books. They burnt the books. They piled the books up and they lit them on fire, and they burnt the books to suppress the word of the people and the knowledgeable people. And they burnt the books so the general population couldn't read and find out that knowledge, right? They wanted to change everything. They wanted to change the way people thought. They wanted to change the way people acted. They wanted to control people. It was a really scary time. And it's actually kind of bizarre. One of the scary things about that is the DNA is still alive and thriving amongst human beings from that time period. It's not like we're reading about it petroglyphs way back. People are still alive today that were alive during those times. So what says that those times can't happen again? Because we're way more civilized now, right? Yeah, right. You know, in a perfect world, the people who try to control and suppress the people today, in a perfect world, they will pay eventually, right? I can only imagine what the security must be. I wonder what they budget for security, these people who suppress your voice, the people who prevent you from obtaining true, honest knowledge. I honestly wonder what the security must be like. Must be substantial, right? Imagine what the security must be for the owners of Google, the owners of Twitter, the owners of the owners of everything. The big tech is definitely attacking the world. It's definitely some type of a war is going on, whether you care to admit it or not. There is a war going on right now. It's just not with conventional, normal weapons, right? It's pretty creepy. It's pretty frustrating. I know what I would do if I could get my hands on the dark, evil bastards. It wouldn't be too pretty, I'll guarantee you that much. One day, hopefully I'm alive to witness it. Maybe hopefully I'm alive to take part in it. But the bad people need to pay. The good people need to come together and get strong. Quit being scared. Quit being scared to fight and stand up for what's right. The only people that convince us that violence is wrong is the people that inflict violence in other countries and people today, right? Because they don't want it happening to them. Anyway, getting on with it. We got some voices we got to get heard. Nothing's going to stop that ever. I'm thinking about possibly launching my own app again with all of this information on it and more. The only things that the questions I need answered to make sure the other thing I need to do first is I need to talk to my techies and make sure that it can be done so that it doesn't annihilate all the data on your phones. Because you have to download my app platform. I have a handful of hunting and angling apps out right now, but I know the video content takes up a pile of space on that app when you download it. The audio content is substantially less, so I'd have to figure out how to plan it out. I'd have to put like a chapter with all audio, possibly a chapter only have videos where the backgrounds are absolutely epic or something like that. Maybe have another chapter for videos that people sent in, maybe. Have a photo album on it. I already have all those features built into my platform, and I've had that done for a handful of years now. So I'm going to look into that, because I'm a very independent person, and I'll admit it right now, I like to fight back with everything I got. And when my hands are tied by a cowardice foe, who I don't even know what they look like, but they directly affect me and try to control me, I really have a tough time with it. And I need to fight back. But anyway, I can possibly... I'll see. I'm going to talk to my techies, see how I can do it so that it doesn't annihilate the data on your phones. Maybe we can cap it, have a cap, like a 50 video cap on it. whereas the new video that hits, the oldest video deletes. Maybe we could do it that way. I'll figure it out. I will figure it out, and I'll keep you guys up to date. Now, let's see. Let's get some voices heard. Unfortunately, I put a new thermostat in my pickup the other day, and I just took a drive up an old logging road where nobody is and nobody has been, and I'm overheating. So it's a good excuse to stand here and get some voices shared while it cools off. No service out here either. All right. Why can humans go into the woods at all? Question mark. Dear Steve, I used to wonder why after all the damage humans have done to the Sabi's backyard in the past 300 years, they don't pick off every one of us who stray from our towns in the bush. Into the bush. I no longer do. I believe this Earth is only one of many dimensions Sabi has access to. What we're doing to the planet Earth is more of a cause for sadness than anger. When the Earth becomes unlivable, they'll simply stop coming for chow. What will humans do? Sincerely, Joseph Lester. Interesting, Joseph. You know, it's funny with people hating on people for what we're doing to the planet. I mean, obviously, we are definitely gobbling up all of the items we need to survive. But in the reality, in the big picture, we're going to come and go. So the Earth, the planet's going to be fine in the end. It's us that aren't going to be fine. We are making the planet uninhabitable for ourselves. That's the only thing that's happened. It's just humans. It's not the planet. The planet's going to be fine. Species are going to come and go. They always have before we got here. And you know what? Let's face it. If they could travel between dimensions, well, no big deal. They just come here for a little pit stop, have a look around, scare some people, chow on some deer, some fruits, some vegetables, and leave to the other dimension, right? Just like we would. It's kind of like going to Vegas. We all go there. We can't stand it for more than 3 days, then we leave. Shake our head and go home. Whatever. I guess, maybe. Moving along. Ongoing encounters and fight. Shortened down. Shortened again, 12 to 23, because people need to hear this. Excuse me. Okay, that was a different title. To Mike in Ohio, whose nephew shot one while turkey shot, get in touch with me and I will help you get back into hunting. I only want to help. Just like others, I appreciate what you're doing, especially for people like me who have had head-to-head encounters with these bushwhacking hairy sumbitches. Encounters that still can't believe have happened, and I wish they hadn't because they've changed my life forever. I've been holding off on sending you this update because there are so many others who need help, and I try to help the ones I can. But just like Scott, the list keeps getting bigger and bigger. When I first contacted you with my encounters on my property, you sent me to Scott. But we were already on the same page, and I guess I got it right, and it was Scott's research and knowledge that helped me tremendously. When other good people ask for help, I don't ask for anything, and I won't accept a nickel, not even for gas. I'm so upset they've stopped doing what they love outdoors, or they're in fear for their children. I know how both these feel. I don't care if I spend hundreds of dollars on gas and hotel, they've got enough on their place, and I just want to help. For the scumbags who try to profit from that, well, I will spend the same amount of time and money to track them down and insert a Louisville slugger so far up their ass that when they cough, it'll sound like a home run. I've had half a dozen close-up encounters, and they were all different in many aspects. Now, I know you share people's encounter/stories as you receive them, and your level of restraint is amazing and commendable, giving everyone the same equal voice, which is totally awesome. It's also frustrating when I hear stories from folks who talk as if they're completely certain that they know all there is to know about this subject. People who go on about, just talk to them as if it's a friend when walking into the woods, or, we come in peace, and yada, yada, yada. I'm not trying to discredit or make fun of everyone, especially in the Club of No Return. I'm trying to relay a message of responsibility. Your encounters are just that, your encounters. We all come away with a knowing, or a packet of knowledge afforded to us by the encounter. But don't tell anyone to do a specific thing like project a feeling of friendship or love. You could get them killed. So knock that shit off. And for the folks who pay BFRO to go out, pound on trees, and do that stupid whooping crap, knock that shit off too. We here are all in the know. Just know that this type of behavior makes you and the rest of us look like a bunch of morons to the hairy sumbitches. If y'all don't like hairy sumbitches, okay, those big hairy rat bastards. You're killing me, man. I love the folks in this crazy family of ours that was started by your grandfather, a true hero, and your hunting stories. We've all created this roundtable of knowledge, and we all want to help each other, especially new members. So please, if you have a story about feelings or structures or just want your story read, please hold off and let the people who are traumatized have the stage. If we don't, then it'll be sometime in August of 2191 before Steve gets them all read. Thank you. From my encounters, I've seen a few traits that appear to be the same each time. To me, they have zero respect for us, and they do not want to be friends. They're indeed what the DNA shows them to be. They're angelic and interdimensional beings. Human female and unknown male, which is where the Bible comes in. From balls of light to the predator-type camo, the same hairy sumbitches. Outside of the DNA, these are my opinions, but the fact that I successfully keep them off my property and other people's property says something. Not to mention keeping 3 of them off my butt while they were charging, all by speaking the name of Jesus, definitely lends credibility to this. However, I will never tell anyone how to deal with one because each encounter is usually different, because they're different. My nightmare started in 1883 with a group of friends that lived on the outskirts of Columbiana, Ohio. We'd all sleep out on our porches and wait for the 1 a.m. train to pass so we didn't wake parents while sneaking out. While we were standing under a massive pine tree, something big screamed at us, and it was the scream. Take the most terrifying scream of a 50-foot tall woman, and then get rid of the beginning, the rise, and trailing off parts of the scream to where it's just the loudest part, and then make that one part last for 10 seconds. We were stunned, to say the least, and we started to open our mouths. And when we started to open our mouths, it happened again. It was directly behind us, behind a 6-foot solid fence that we couldn't see through, with too much brush to climb either side, and it was 4 houses long across our backyards. It was a weird spot, 4 houses in a row, on a road that was mostly large farms, but it was the only real wooded section of the road, and there was a creek on the side we were near. Clearly, this hairy sumbitch was trying to get across the road when we showed up. We decided to investigate, and we got to the spot. We were greeted by a 10-foot shadow figure with red eyes. We then turned and ran, shattering all Olympic sprinting records. The next day we got together and tried to figure out if we really saw what we really saw, and because no one had a good answer, we decided to do the only thing a group of 15 to 16-year-old boys would do: camp out on the creek just a few yards from where we saw it. The first night was a typical tents and beer night, and when we woke, everything that wasn't in a tent was shredded. Everything. So we did the only sane thing we could. We decided to stay another night. That night we had a large thunderstorm, and because we didn't have any waterproof tents, all 5 of us ended up in the same tent. I think he was waiting for that because first we thought tornado, then we were all pinned into one corner while he basically swung and threw us. What? We scrambled out and ran to the closest person's house, but we still didn't know what it was. Bigfoot's name and fame was not known to us. Not in a way an Ohio hairy sumbitch was possible. There was just one in California, right? Later that day I found perfect human footprints, at least 2 different sizes. So I did what you expect. Got my hunting dog, my rifle, and followed them alone. Thankfully I lost them about a mile in. They decided to get on the railroad tracks and gravel. I thought it was over until an Ohio State trooper pulled into our driveway. He heard about our encounter from a farmer, and then heard about my tracking from my buddies, but it didn't matter. In the end, and after many dead cows, horses, chickens, dogs, and goats, the story in paper read, "Band of satanic cultists kill farm animals." Fast forward to 2018 deer season, about 36 years later, and I've been dealing with this encounter for almost 2 years before I wrote this as much needed therapy. For the first few months, it was just nightmares. Thank God it happened on the last day of the season. And to be clear, I didn't want anything from anybody except not to be laughed at, especially from family members. I'm writing this for my own therapy, for the Club of No Return. And now, because more Ohioans are coming forward, many of them near me. Seriously, there are more sightings in Ohio than any other area outside of northwestern America. It's nuts. The CNT, Club of No Return, should watch the Minerva Monster on Prime. It's 4 miles from my home, which is in Minerva, Ohio. It's a great documentary, as it's one of the very first, if not the first, and it was told by those involved. Hearing the story from the police, county sheriff, and a reporter involved, all who soon became witnesses and believers. It's also funny because 5 friends/brothers decided to try and tackle one. Try being the key word. Okay, back to the last day of 2017, 18 deer archery season. I was hunting a friend's property outside of Lisbon, Ohio, near a massive network of strip pits and high walls. This friend had previously told me that a bear had caused their stud horse to jump off a 100-foot high wall to his death. I never bought that story because bears in northeastern Ohio are very rare. And second, because horses usually don't go nuts around bears or let them get the jump on them, it'll make sense soon. Yeah, agreed, man. A black bear attacked my horses is going to get the shit kicked out of it. This is the my horses, I've actually watched them chasing bears out of the pasture. That's a fact. This is the last day of the season, so I decided to set up right off the main deer trail. There are a few pines with a small pine patch to my back that I could not shoot towards because of a house down the hill. I've been sitting there for several hours, not moving a muscle, but I knew something was walking around behind me. I did not move because I thought it was a deer. I've had curious yearlings walk right up to me several times if you're very still, and I couldn't shoot my crossbow in that direction anyway, so I just kept still. I still couldn't shake the eerie feeling that something was standing over me, and I would have bet that my quiver, which was laying beside me, moved. I knew something was very close and moving behind me, and the hair on my neck was standing straight up. Then, after several hours of not moving an inch, small stones started dropping in front of me. What the F? I'm out in the middle of this huge property and stones are falling in front of me? Then I heard unbelievably powerful low growl, and because it didn't make sense, I mean nothing like that could be in the woods, I decided to blow it off, but I felt unable to move. Not frozen in fear, just unable to move. I believe it was my gut telling me to stay still, but I'm seriously not sure. Then I heard that horrible growl again, like nothing I've ever heard in 40 years of hunting. It shook my clothing like I was standing in front of a wall of speakers at a Van Halen concert, and it was not far behind me. Well, that was it. I swung around to meet the threat, but nothing was thing. So I blew it off again since it still wouldn't compute. My mind just did not want to process what was happening. So I went to the edge of the pines and got behind a wood pile on the edge of the hayfield. I only had 45 minutes of daylight left and I wanted meat. As soon as I got down, 3 deer I'm used to seeing and near the route started coming towards me. I got in a good shooting position and got the red dot on my target immediately. The deer then, for lack of a better word, freaked out at something behind them. They started running at me, running into each other, snorting and weaving back into the tree line. Holy shit, deer did not act this way ever. Then they started to shoot in all directions over a cut hayfield between the strips of woods and then disappeared. I didn't question it anymore because now I could actually feel their dread. So I got up and started towards my four-wheeler. While I was walking along the edge of the field and woods, another deer came out of the woods to my left and headed down towards me. Again, I was ready to shoot when this deer started running back and forth, snorting and wheezing. I mean, running frantically in all directions in the open. It was nuts. I started walking again, and after a few minutes, I looked up in front of me and saw... Things still going? And saw it. Straight branches arranged through and around the V of 2 trees. And the tree beside it was snapped off about 9 feet up. I knew what this was. Plus, all the other trees that were damaged or bent over were in the opposite direction. So, I took out my phone to take a few pictures of this, but that was a bad idea. Right then I heard and then saw a massive 90 to 100 foot tall tree about 50 yards across the field at my 9 o'clock being shaken violently by a massive dark figure. Oh shit, I'm done. Then I heard a massive grunt and the loudest tree-breaking sound I've ever heard as it knocked this thing over. It was unbelievably loud. I then realized I was the focus of this hairy sumbitch's anger, so I pulled out my 9mm, making sure a round was chambered because I thought it was going to charge me next. Yes, I had a serious lack of firepower, but you work with what you got. When I was able to start thinking again, I realized there was nothing. No noise, no movement, nada. What the F? So after I settled down a bit, I made a video recording of my thoughts of what just happened, just in case my phone was all that was left of me. Then I got on my four-wheeler, drove towards the edge of the woods where the tree fell, and sat there with my brights on, but I couldn't see any movement, so I headed out. The people who owned the property raised and sold gated Tennessee walkers. I owned one of them myself, along with a stubborn paint mare, my two best friends. They had said their best stallion was up on the high wall, exactly where the growling came from, and they said it was run off a 100-foot high wall by a black bear. But now it made perfect sense. The horse was not killed by a black bear. Now I was really pissed at that sumbitch, so now I hunt there as much as possible. Screw them. But what really keeps me popping into my mind, and what I still grapple with, were the growls. I mean, these were just unbelievable deep rumbling growls. The vocal power was hard to comprehend, and I would have sworn that a curious young deer was sniffing my back right before hearing it. It was that friggin' close. Was a Sasquatch standing behind me, pissed off, debating on popping my damn head off because I was hunting his deer? Regardless, my season was over, bushwhacked by a huge, hairy sumbitch. However, it didn't end there. At my home, my property is small, just under 10 acres, and the back has a large, steep, wooded hill that runs down to the cliff of a strip pit. This is ideal for hunting because it's a choke point for all the deer in the area. It also sits up against a few large properties that are full of swamps and strip pits as well. I plant a deer crop every year and put out cameras. One night I went into my woods to get trail cam. I let you go out there at night in case coyotes are around. They're everywhere and they must be stopped. But as I started walking down the hill, I literally walked into a wall. I couldn't see it, but I was so overcome with a feeling of dread and pure fear that it stopped me in my tracks. I've never experienced anything like it in my life, and I've had 6 fight-or-flight near-death experiences. I'm a big guy and have zero tolerance for BS, but this was not of this world, and even my wife could tell I was shaken when I came back inside, eyes wide and pale-skinned. The next night, I went back out. I was carrying my AR-15, 45 ACP on my right hip, and a 40 S&W on my left. I was also wearing 3 megalumen headlamps. This time, I got about a third of the way down the hill when I heard a completely new type of animal call. It sounded like a squirrel bark, but it was so loud and non-animal-like that I knew it was bogus. Then large sticks and brush breaking, like something big was coming my way. So I slowly backed up, keeping light in the direction of the sounds. Plus, I had a powerful light attached to my AR-15's Picatinny rail. I backed out, lit up like a small sun, and that was it the first night. Then about a week later, and long enough to convince myself that I was imagining what happened, I headed back in at 1 a.m. This time I camoed up and brought an extra sidearm with a light. I walked all the way to my trail camera, took it down, and put it in my pocket. Then I walked to the edge of the drop-off to spotlight the cliff and below. As soon as I took the light out of the bottom of the pit and turned around, I heard 2 of those stupid loud squirrel sound barks from 2 different directions, and they seemed pissed. Okay, what now? Well, right away I could hear movement from 3 directions this time, and the movement sounded and felt like trains in the woods. First to my left, then to my right, and one coming right at me up. And they were not stopping. They were all headed towards me. The one in the front was coming right up the strip pit cliff in front of me, and I had my AR and laser up waiting for a face. It was more than terrifying, and I needed to do something. At first I thought about opening up my AR, but with that powerful green laser on it, it would have been terrifying to anything. I'm not sure how I still had my wits about me, so out loud I rebuked them in the name of Jesus, which brought them all to a halt. Amazing. I mean, right on cue, as if they all dropped dead. Crazy. But I was still outnumbered, scared to death, and I had to get out. And somehow they had all moved silently, where I had no idea. But the one on my right had positioned itself right up the trail I came in on. It was now on the property line, about 10 feet from the trail, and I was going at it. I could go straight back through a bunch of brush and up a small hill, but I no longer knew where they were. They were not moving. I heard no movement. And now they decided to start whistling, just like a human would. It was crazy. Out in the middle of my woods at 1 a.m. with 3 hairy sumbitches whistling. Okay, I'm game, so I slung my AR-15 down and off to my side and made sure all my lights were on. Since the whistling kept going, I figured, okay, I'll join in and do just that. Now, I wasn't doing this to interact or satisfy my curiosity. I was scared to death. I was just trying to get the hell out of there alive, and I was doing this as an attempt to confuse. And it worked. I'm not sure they knew what to think, and I got the distinct feeling they were dumbfounded. Like, what's this guy doing? He's not running or seemingly scared, not holding his gun up, and he's got the nerve to whistle with us? I did get the impression that they were acting in a very protective way, and I wasn't going to mess around with the family of these hairy bastards. So I got back in, walking backwards, whistling up a long ATV trail that goes right through the middle of my woods with a gradual slope up. I kept whistling and shining light everywhere, and I couldn't hear anything from them, which actually doubled my fear. I was hoping that whistling and putting my weapons down would confuse them, and it seemed like it had. And I'm sure it was because I appeared as much less of a threat now, and joining in with their whistling maybe freaked them out a bit. When I got into my field, I turned off all my lights except a little one, and just scanned around the property. There were 2 huge sets of eyes giving off white eye shine at the end of my deer plot field. I did not see them because of my light, and they were moving back and forth and blinking a lot. They were huge white eyes, and were really bright, and it was amazing to see them due to this because no light was shining towards them. Then a 3rd set showed up, and I think I found their reason for pitching such a fit. The first 2 sets were easily 9 feet high, but the 3rd set was several feet shorter. A whole family, perhaps? They just stood there staring at me, and they weren't taking their eyes off me as I stood there staring at them for at least 10 minutes. Then I just turned around and walked to my house. I turned around about halfway, and they were gone. This, I was keeping to myself. I couldn't let on and scare my wife and daughter. I never thought to do anything like record on my phone either. It was almost hypnotic seeing these eyes shining so brightly by themselves. Now I don't want to fight, but this is my land. I have nothing against them either, as it was my 5th and 6th encounters, none of which were good, and all, but I'm still alive. After that night, I walked to the perimeter of my property, praying and knocking down every X or tree structure I could find, and there were a ton. Since then, I haven't seen sign of them on my property, but I've heard them on the neighbors. Sometimes they'll watch me and chatter from the neighbors. I don't care. I just give them the finger. I think there are several different family units that come through this area at the end of deer season, and they usually are gone by May. I keep tabs, though. If a different group comes up to watch my daughter and her friend, which they've done in the past, it would be on. A fight would probably ensue with the massed expenditure of ammunition. My insurance is paid up. I'm sick of their bullcrap, though. Coming around to hunt at the end of the season, scaring the crap out of me, and then nothing until next year, at least in this spot anyway. But once you're marked, you're marked. I no sooner get over the one encounter than boom, here we go again. Anyway, I've had several more encounters, but this story has gone on long enough. I guess in a way they've helped me be able to help others. My property's been like a testing ground, and when people call or email me, I'm usually able to help them. I'm grateful you started this group, Steve. It is the best source of knowledge to date, and the people here are just awesome. Take care, brother. John Olenek. Oh, I did book a hunt with you years ago, but after the plane landed, you came out to meet us and said we weren't allowed to touch ourselves in the cabin. So I went home and laughed my ass off. That's a good one. Oh my God. Then you put a quote at the bottom. Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. John Wayne. All that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Oh my God, is that true? John, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Not that I'm looking for enjoyment myself, but can I even stay on the screen on that thing? I can't even see it from all the glare around here. Not that that matters. I'm actually, I'm way up a logging road. North of home. I've wrapped around a big area where there is a pile of sightings of these damn things. You know, nobody's been in here. It's all fresh snow, but it's melted enough I could drive this far back. And I definitely found the mother-loaded deer sign in here. No cats. No big cats are on top of them, but there's definitely a good solid food source right here, right now. Anyway, there's a river, a good steelhead river flowing somewhere back behind these trees. Oh, the sun's behind me. Anyway, it's going that way. I don't think I'm going to hike in there right now, though. Got to concentrate on getting this truck out of here. Find out what it is that's making it overheat. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. And then if you're listening to this right now, and it's, what is it, January 17th, this is being recorded, so you're probably listening to this on Spreaker, because that's where it's going to go. And I will put this back on YouTube once I get out of YouTube jail for speaking honestly and sharing honest people's voices. And then I will, it actually gives me more motivation to amp up the shares and make even more content to pump out there to the people. And that's what I'm going to do. Anyways, regardless. Also, message David Pilatus to do me a favor and mention on his channel to everybody what happened, so nobody thinks I'm dead. And that ought to do it for now. And as soon as I get out of here, on the way out, I'm going to stop at another spot where I might have some sort of a view, and I'm going to make some more shares there. So keep listening, you guys, all right? I'll be back.